join us here right until the point where a certain little ram man decided to blow up the earth literally and then become a hulking idiot god. If you're a little confused as to what we are talking about, you'll be able to find all of the information here, up on the lookout. For those of you who don't know, Up on the Lookout is a Dragon Ball podcast with a difference. Here we like to take our time with Dragon Ball and really discuss it in a more relaxed manner instead of trying to be deeply analytical all the time. We just wish to share our honest thoughts of a medium that we love oh so much for oh so long. Joining me today is my usual sidekick, Habarok.
Hello, I am the guy who still thinks that Moro Saga may be better than Boo.
Well, it's certainly a very big improvement for Dragon Ball Super at the very least. And if there are ways that you'd like to help interact with the podcast, you can become a caretaker of the Lookout by going to masako.cc/lookout. And don't worry, if you've been missing a lot of these episodes lately, then we are going to be making more podcasts in the future because TFS work is slowly coming to an end for the moment, and I can actually dedicate some more time to our own stuff here. So you can expect more podcast episodes coming up in the next few months. But anyway, we should get to our main topic. Dragon Ball Super Chapter 66. I think at the very least, it is something that we both agree on sticks the landing, wouldn't you say?
Having reread the whole thing again, I think it does. I think it sticks the landing. It's not the best ending we could get, but it's far from the worst ending that we could get. So that's a plus. That's a bonus. And if you think about it, like previously, I said that that Toyotaro cannot do payoffs. He doesn't understand it. Well, I have to retract it. He does. It just, they were in places that I didn't expect them that much.
Okay. So we can say that Toyotaro has improved since the days of Dragon Ball AF, but just in more subtle manners, so to speak, like in ways that we don't expect. And it does require a little bit of thought. It's nothing too overt, but in a way that's not necessarily a bad thing because it really makes us have to think laterally, almost feel like a JoJo manga almost. You have to just think, all right, yeah, I didn't think about that. That didn't really occur to me. And that's very unusual for a Dragon Ball tome. But either way, Toyotaro managed to mostly make up for the previous chapter because I was rereading chapter 65 just a moment ago and watching my review again. And I think a lot of times passed, but the memories of being sorely disappointed and actually being very frustrated still ring true. So for chapter 66, do you think that it's made up for chapter 65?
In some ways it did. Like, I at least appreciate acknowledgement from Goku that he messed up. On the other hand, like, I want something more. I want some consequences from other characters and not being like, oh, Goku, you lovable goof. Hehe, that's me. I'm glad that Toyotaro himself has acknowledged that it was Goku's fault. I don't know if, like, because the thing is, like, we don't know how much of the stuff he's doing is his own idea, how much is Shueisha, how much is Toriyama. Based on his previous works, like, he kinda he repeats those scenes to be fan servicey, but in that case, like, some of this fan service doesn't make sense in context, and it just feels like a repetition. And like, in artistic sense, he's still miles behind Toriyama, and he also repeats himself. But I would say that he has some other merits and some stuff that he might do even better than Toriyama. Issue is that these are the things that not necessarily make people come to Dragon Ball, which is also very important, because when you hear world building, nerds like me like this kind of stuff, right? When I get like 12 new designs of gods that I can analyze and search for inspirations for, I like this. But like, it's not what most people come for to Dragon Ball.
Yes, no, definitely. A lot of the time people find it neat to find out that information, but it's not the thing that it really draws them to it. It's like, it's nice to know. It's nice to know that these characters have some detail and context behind them, but it's not thing that's really going to improve or detract from the overall product. And I think another thing to what you were saying about Toyotaro is that I feel like, sort of like what Toriyama was back in the day when he was doing early Slump, he didn't really have the courage. This is Toyotaro I'm talking about. He doesn't have the courage to speak up and push back too much. Toriyama will obviously listen to him more than he did at the beginning of their working relationship, but when it comes to the big weeks at Shueisha, he is probably very, very concerned that he could easily be dropped because he's not Toriyama. And that's despite what Toriyama says. I think that Toyotaro has that sort of Damocles hanging above his head, thinking any moment if he doesn't do a good arc, then, or if he causes too much trouble, that could come down on top of him and he could easily be replaced, probably by the likes of Dragon Garo Lee. So you feel like if Toyotaro wasn't here or if he chose to retire, Garo Lee would then step in, because his work on the case of being reincarnated as Yamcha, that was very popular. And Garo Lee's style is just as good as Toyotaro's in terms of his expertise with the style. He might actually be even better when it comes to fluidity. We don't know. We can't compare the two, because Garo Lee does not have the same oversight and assistance as Toyotaro does. So I feel like any future arc might have Toyotaro pushing back a little bit more, because he's now made an arc which is primarily him steering the ship, and overall it's been received fairly well. Sort of like with the Tournament of Power arc. It had its ups and downs and stuff, but people thought, hey, the ending to the Tournament of Power was pretty good. And now the same people are going, hey, the ending of the Moro saga is pretty good. And it's just the same thing. And ultimately, this is a lot of things that happen in popular media. If you have something which is mostly okay or fine, but it has a good ending, then you forgive most of the quirks. If you have something that is great, but a terrible ending, it completely spoils the whole thing. Like when Philly and we caught up with How I Met Your Mother, and I know about all the stuff in 2014 where everyone thought the ending was terrible, but we obviously weren't aware of it, so we didn't really pay much thought. But when we actually got to that ending, we thought, oh, this is really unsatisfying. Like, what was the point of all of that? It's just like, right, this is really, really kind of offensive to all that time, that like years of following the show, and then no, the ending's bad. And that's all you talk about. Like Game of Thrones. Nobody cares about Game of Thrones anymore.
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect, yes. Well, maybe to a lesser extent.
Yeah, but still.
Mass Effects 1 and 2 did really good.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 3...
It was a good game up until, like, last 10 minutes.
It's, where the last person we actively fought was Marauder Shields. Yeah. And then let's not just speak about Andromeda. Oof.
I think that Andromeda is overhated. Like there were moments that I enjoyed myself, but like it was only fine at times, Like I think that Andromeda is overhated, but like it's not the point of the discussion. I feel that like with Moro arc, I felt like my biggest problem with Moro arc is that like it's fine, it's okay, it's probably the best original storyline that Super had, but the thing that hurts the most is that that it could be something truly great, on at least on par with Z at times, if not for some weird creative decisions,
And that if it's going to get animated, there are going to be some things which are toned down, which will actually hinder the overall impact, because this isn't something that they would take lightly. This is something they have to do in order to keep Dragon Ball in the same 9 a.m. time slot on a Sunday. There are going to be things that have to be toned down. So that is just something people have to accept. So what that does mean is that you have to make up for it in other ways. So you have to trim some stuff down, extend other things which weren't really explored, maybe even remove and omit things that were not really that well received or really didn't work. Like maybe add something to the second fight with Goku and Moro, you know? So maybe make it less of like Moro's just toying with him the whole time. Like, make it more of like, oh, Moro is genuinely struggling, but he does still have an advantage that Goku cannot overcome, his magic.
Yeah, because like if you read it like the second fight feels obsolete, but it's like I think you said it a while ago. It's something with Toyotaro, Super, and Freeze. You have those three journeys to the time, with the second one being obsolete. Like number 2 in Toyotaro's or DBS Freeze is usually the most obsolete one.
Oh yeah, of course. It's like with the Goku Black arc, everyone was going like 2 times, like going to the future 1 time, then coming back and then regrouping for a final push. That would have been enough. Like with Goku fighting Jiren 3 times. The second time felt a little bit unnecessary. And going Ultra Instinct, sorry. The second time going Ultra Instinct, okay, it was against Kefla, and it did a really good action and probably one of the most skilled Kamehamehas in the entire series, not just Super. It still felt a bit overly unnecessary, except that bit.
Also, I'm kind of sad that even though he used some of the characters, they kind of fade, like Gohan really fades in the end to the background.
Oh man, I was thinking that too, because like for the last few chapters, Gohan is just there going, exposition, I feel exposition by expositoring exposition. That's what he's doing. He just says things at the beginning of the chapter, maybe talking to Piccolo. Like at the start of this chapter, he's going, I feel so weak. No, that's not you, Gohan, that's just the writers doing that.
And on the other hand, like I'm glad that Piccolo at least helped Vegeta invent the spirit fission spirit bomb. But again, to me, the true star of this chapter, outside of Oop, is Jacko. I'm like, I hope this sticks. I hope his development from that arc sticks, because Jacko is becoming genuinely a competent character after this arc.
Yeah, absolutely. And with him being a super elite and Miras no longer being there, I mean, Jacko would probably get like a promotion or something like that. And
he will have to step up to the occasion.
Yeah, he might actually have to. And he probably would want to. Because he came up with that decision. It's like, we keep saying this. And I said this in my super review, in that if you took Vegeta out of the equation, Goku wouldn't have won. And the fact is that Toyotaro did something good. And this is something we'll discuss in more detailed discussions later on. But this was a team effort. You cannot say that Goku won against Moro solely. It's a team effort. It's like with Jiren. Goku didn't beat Jiren. Goku beat Jiren with the help of Universe 7 and most importantly Frieza. Goku actually hasn't won a major battle alone. No. Like Beerus, he lost. Hit, it was a tie. Goku Black.
Frieza.
Okay, Frieza. Yeah, but that honestly that doesn't sort of really count. He already beat Frieza.
And he did a kill steal from Vegeta.
Yeah, that required a do-over for him to do. So that required help from Weeks. And then Goku Black, that was Trunks. Well, yeah, with Zamasu. So that was Trunks doing that as best as they could. And then with Jiren, it's Goku and Frieza. And now with Moro, it's Goku and the Dragon Team. Or specifically Goku, Vegeta, and Oob.
And Jacko, question mark?
I'd say Jacko. I'd say that's valid because he came up with a good idea. And no one else thought of it. So that's something to take into account. So as much as there are many haters of Jacko, including our friend Sophie, she really does not like Jacko. I'd be curious for her to actually read the manga and see that arc and see whether her opinion changes or not.
Yeah. Because like again, I can totally understand not liking Jacko. Like in the same vein, I'm not the biggest fan of Hercule. Although I must say that Super Hercule annoys me to much lesser extent. And after Moro like I started to enjoy Jaco mostly because he wasn't only used as a comic relief in silly shenanigans. Like that's the most important thing. Like it's fine to have to have comical characters, but to me the credibility of this character being having any sort of Galactic Patrol rank falls apart when he's just a goofy jokester. And to me it's like he's clearly jealous because of Mirus, but when he learns a lot about it, like I can feel that he's affected again. Like whenever Jaco wants to admit it or not, Mirus was his friend, probably one of the closest.
And Jaco probably doesn't have that many friends because he either rubs people up the wrong way or he gets too much involved in his work to make friends. But Mirus probably was the only one he respected, in like proper, genuine respect. The other ones he'd be basically just toadying or sucking up to them because, how do you think he got to being a super elite? He probably kissed a lot of butts. He probably towed the line and basically was very, very sucky-uppy.
We are still one chapter left. I still hope that that they won't return Mirrors, that it won't, and that my biggest hopes for chapter 67 after chapter 66 is that what we got is the the announcement of some changes of actual plot progression. Because think about it, like they reintroduced Ub, maybe they are slowly getting ready to go past the end of Z.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. Like, this is a good point to move on to our predictions or our hopes for chapter 67. And as we said, the most likely thing that's going to be covered in this chapter, because it's mainly tying up loose ends, but there is a big one in what is the Grand Priest going to say to Whis and what is going to be the consequences. I don't think that he's going to end up erasing Whis or Beerus, because that would not make any sense. And, Mirus dies, and I don't think the Grand Priest is going to bring Mirus back. So I feel like it would be that strong enough consequence, as in because of your actions, one of our angels in training is dead, and it needn't have happened. So basically, you need to learn from this. This could easily happen to you.
I think it will be a last warning, and at some point, Beerus and Whis will have to step in, and they will go over the last warning. I think that's the most likely plotline. That maybe the next arc would be us saying goodbye to Beerus and Whis. Because think about it, like if you wanted to go past Z with all the rumors about the new animated treatment or movie or whatever, what would be the better occasion to do that?
Yeah, if you made a movie about where you basically have one last fight between Goku and Beerus, maybe the only lasting connection they can have is food deliveries. That's it. You cannot go to their world, Beerus's place. The only thing that Whis can do is pick up food or have food teleported to their house, and that's it. And then basically, indirectly, it makes Universe 7 a better place to be because Beerus isn't going around destroying as many planets. So it's a nice little way of having some sort of compromise. As you say, this could lead to something really good. And maybe it could then lead into a new series or a new part and chapter, an era of Dragon Ball Super of post-End of Z. Goku and Oob, they are still knocking around, but they're mainly doing stuff on their own, or they're having adventures together and meeting new characters in other universes. So maybe it's Goku and Oob traveling to Universe 11 or something like that.
Or, finally Goten and Trunks
getting older.
Aged up. Yeah. Aged up, yeah, and getting a proper storyline.
Yeah, so there could easily be a lot of good things that you could get from this. But it's just down to the fact about whether Shueisha is willing enough to change the iconography.
I have a question for you, and I think our listeners are wondering about your opinion. Do you think that chapter 66 improved the ending of Z in your eyes?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. That was probably one of the best things in that chapter. And I love the fact that it wasn't leaked. That none of it was made available. It just goes to show that having spoilers and leaks makes such a big difference. about how you enjoy it. Having Oob there with the Grand Supreme Kai guiding him, Oob having no clue what's happening, is just a sign that, as we've said, both of us have said, it's Goku repaying a debt. Now, it's just not Goku going like, there's a strong boy with boost ki. Cool. Want to go and train suddenly for no reason? And maybe this actually makes people understand, like Goku's family understand, this is the person that helped us fight against Moro and win. Without this boy's energy, we would have lost. So I feel compelled to train him. And this is my last connection to God Ki. So I cannot train with someone with God Ki anymore. Oob is the next best thing. And it makes Oob already way stronger than he was in GT. Like, way stronger. Like, up there with Vegeta. So, Vegeta's probably taking a back seat at the moment, being the ultimate support. And I think people will be a lot more forgiving of Goku just suddenly disappearing for a while, or not being around as often. The main question will be is whether they'll actually slightly retcon it and have Pan join them a little bit.
Yeah, like the thing with Pan, like I don't want to spoil it because it's a point in one of our discussions, but to me, the thing with Pan, I started to think about it because if it sticks, it may not, we all know it's Dragon Ball, those things happen, but if it sticks, like, you know, like maybe Goku at the end of Z really started to mature. Think about it. Yes, she wants to train, but she's very tiny. And maybe for the first time, like looking back with a perspective of chapter 66 and Goku realizing that he messed up, maybe he realized that yes, he will train her someday, but he doesn't want to take away her childhood. People don't think about it. But Pan is very little, she's very eager, but like taking her to that training with God Ki, which is, it isn't your normal training, it's very taxing. For Oob, it's probably the only option to, you know, to get a hand of his latent power. You know, very, very dangerous, very powerful. Think about it, she's 4. She has potential, he can train her later, but Oob doesn't have that much of a choice with the God Ki, so does he, like, for the first time Goku may concern, hey, maybe I will take away her childhood by doing that. Yeah, something that, you know, I didn't, like, me and Chichi didn't really allow Gohan to have. You know, Goten's childhood was happier, but was also, but he also started at pretty early time. Maybe at least my granddaughter can have, you know, a pretty normal childhood to a point. And her potential is so massive that she can catch up.
Yeah, I mean, if that became the reason why Goku wouldn't train Pan or take Pan with him with Oob, that would actually make people go, you know what, that's actually pretty good. That's a selfless reason. You know, instead of, because in the original, it makes, like, Goku look to be a real jerk in that he promised to train Pan, and then he just goes and bounces with this random kid. And, you know, Pan's distraught. Like, she can still be upset because she's 4. She can still have a tantrum, but, you know, there is a reason.
That's why I think that GT's motivation and her attitude is understandable, considering that it followed her through her teenage years.
Well, yeah, well, it wouldn't necessarily, but basically preteen, because she's like 9. So, yeah, but that moment would have had an impact on her, making her a bit, like, you know, resentful and a bit more kind of like resistant to things. That's our hopes for 67 and beyond. But overall, I think with chapter 66, I think a lot of people will basically consider this the end of the Moro saga. Because you see Goku with the thumbs up, and usually Goku giving the thumbs up means it's pretty much done. Like, there is no way that Moro is going to come back from that. Like, at all.
His mind is gone. Like, and you have to appreciate him trying to, you know, to game the system at all costs.
The thing that he longed for oh so long basically cost him his mind. He's not even cognizant enough to even enjoy it. Or he was, but only for like maybe a couple of minutes. Just goes to show. It does affirm what my theory was way back, that Moro would ultimately succumb to having too much power. but this happened in a different way. I thought it'd literally be he basically expand to. No, actually, that did sort of happen. Actually, no, expand having too much. So it did actually sort of happen, but there was more to it. So I feel like we just need to see this animated, and I feel like that the animated version of the Moro saga can follow what happened with Dragon Ball Z. Z adapting the manga. Yeah, the anime adapting the manga. So we now can actually do that. So we can do that now with an entire saga being ready to animate and having potentially a year and a half to 2 years of time of a gap.
One thing I must say that I really appreciate is that we finally got a final form of the villain in Dragon Ball that's not humanoid. We can do something more interesting with them. We can have them fighting a proper dragon as dragon. We can have them fighting an eldritch monstrosity, which Moro kinda is, but they have shown that, hey, like the last fight doesn't have to be a guy.
Yeah, and it just goes to show. Going back to AF before we wrap things up, it's basically, as you said, that Toyotaro through AF really wants to do stuff with the Shadow Dragons, or the dragons. So do you feel like? Okay, we'll briefly touch upon what our thoughts are for the next arc, because we'll keep it under wraps for the moment because we don't know, and we can talk about it next month.
Guys, if it will be something dragon related, or Zalama is still up in the air in my opinion, and if there will be some sort of dragon related content, don't be surprised, because I know that this is obvious for those of you that have read AF all those years ago, but I'm pretty sure that far less people follow fanfics than official stuff. That's kind of obvious. But I feel like you can see so many things from AF making their way into Super that I feel that that Toyotaro really, really, really wants to expand upon the Dragon lore. And if we see the Dragon Realm / Dragon Planet in the next or one of the arcs, don't be surprised. One thing that I must say, at least Toyotaro got better villains than Zykor, because I have opinions about Zykor. And I know that some of you guys like him, so I don't want to vocalize them too much to not anger you.
Yeah, we got something. Yeah, we definitely got something. But yeah. So without further ado, I think this is a good time to wrap things up, and we'll be very much looking forward to the next chapter to see how things go. But that's all, everybody, from this episode of Up on the Lookout. We hope that you enjoyed it. And if you wish to become a caretaker of the Lookout to help support the server costs and whatnot, you can go to masako.cc/lookout for more information. We're going to be hopefully back on a more regular schedule come the end of December and January, so don't worry about that. But we all hope that you're staying safe out there and that you're doing well. So until next time, everybody, ta-ra!
Bye-bye!